Collins, to the NFL. A lot of talk about the New York Giants, what they're going to do at 5 in the draft. There's speculation Arvell Reese could drop from 2 to 5. Jets were looking at him. And then there's a lot of talk about Sonny Styles, the linebacker. Yeah. But Caleb Downs is the one that everybody's targeting. Of course, Baltimore with Harbaugh got Kyle Hamilton at 14. He is an integral piece to the defense. Would they consider Caleb Downs? Here's Joe Shane on the draft.
That wouldn't be out of the question. I mean, those are really good football players. And, those are the conversations we're having right now. Like, hey, we like all these guys, but you got to pick one. And, a couple of them are going to be there. So we're working on stacking that right now. But you speak of Sonny Styles and Caleb Downs, like, talk about talented defense. We've watched a lot of Ohio State defensive film the last couple of months. A lot of good football players from top to bottom on that defense, and those are two of the key players on that defense that we looked at. So certainly guys that we've talked a lot about and think very highly of.
I am a big believer the Giants should trade down more than any team in the draft.
Whoa.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Tennessee should trade down. If Jeremiah Love is there, get Cam Ward help. I don't think Arizona should trade down. My takeaway, if Jeremiah Love is there or David Bailey is there, I mean, when's the last time Arizona drafted a great pass rusher? But the Giants should trade down because the Giants are about 3-4 really good players away from winning a division. Right tackle, got to get a corner, like another safety. I would get another back. More than any team, and you could say the Browns could trade, but they need a receiver. And Carnell Tate's going to be available from Ohio State, so I would just take him. Ooh. The Giants, more than any team in the top 10, like Kansas City, shouldn't trade down. If that right tackle's available, go get him. Bengals shouldn't trade down. Caleb Downs in state, if he's there, their defense on the back end's atrocious. The Giants don't need the 5th pick. They need 2 more picks. They need another 3rd and a 5th.
You think they'll take Downs at 5? I think that's a little rich.
I don't think they will. I think if Sonny Styles is available, it's very Harbaugh. It's a tough interior backer. He can be kind of, he's just one of these guys that's a physical freak, but he's not going to change outcomes. What's going to change outcomes is they short up their kind of tight end situation in free agency. Yep. Right tackle, you got to get better in the back end of the defense. Scattaboo and another back. You got to help Jackson Dart. That's what you got to do. You got to make life easy for Jackson Dart. Keep him out of the blue tent.
They get the receiver back, the star receiver whose name is
Neighbors.
Neighbors is coming back.
I mean, if you think he's one of the best players in the draft and you think he's great and he's going to be awesome on defense, then you would select him. This whole idea that you have to only select certain players at certain spots in the draft, I reject as loud as you possibly can. It just does not. It's just not the way it's not the way how the world works, and it's not the way how the NFL world works. But in terms, clear's throat, of trading down and whatnot, I'm so grateful that the draft is next week, right? I'm pretty sure it's almost positive it's actually next week. This the speculation, I know I've shared this a bunch, but I'm very honest with how I feel about these things and I share them when I feel them. And I'm just like I just can't wait to get to the draft and then we can just break down what happened. Like that's it's like how I feel about with the Super Bowl. Since you have 2 weeks prior to the Super Bowl, it's like we just keep talking about it and talking about it and talking about it. And it's just like I always reach a breaking point by like the midway through the following week. And it's just like the Super Bowl's in a few days. Let's just play it already. Let's just play it, then we'll talk about it. Then let's keep talking about it. And then I'm way more inclined to keep talking about something after the fact. But the constant prediction again and again and again. And this is the problem, you don't know what's available. You don't know who's available in that moment. And so, and the problem is especially I'm more confident in the Raiders and the Titans. But is it possible the Jets and the Cardinals make a move where you're just like, what the heck are you thinking right now? It wouldn't surprise me if they do something where you're just kind of like, what? Why did the Jets just get Jeremiah Love, right? Where you're like, wait, what? Why did you just do that? What are you thinking right now? I don't know. I do think the defense for the Giants obviously needs to be significantly better. I would be concerned with this idea that like your main offensive core is Jackson Dart, Skatabu, and Malik Neighbors. Like I think Skatabu is the perfect if we're talking about like Sonic and Knuckles type thing with what the Lions did, like he's a Knuckles, not a Sonic. Like Skatabu is a side character. He's not the main character. Okay. I think he was such a great energizer, and him and Jackson Dart, they brought so much energy. Energy that I loved and really appreciate. I mean, just from a strict entertainment standpoint. It just fun to watch. It's fun to be around. But when Collins is talking about the Giants trying to like win the division, all of that, you're going to need to have attention to detail. It's not just about energy. It's not just about energy. It's about being focused. About understanding the complexities of the game. It's about making great decisions and executing at the highest level. It's not just about putting your head down and just running as fast and as hard as you can, okay? And so that is something that this offense needs to get better at. And I love them. Again, I'm not saying that they're doing this with the 5th overall pick. But like, I need them to add more high IQ players on offense. This is actually why I love Jeremiah Love so much. Because I think he's that. I think he's that. Combined with just a physical skill set that's amazing. And same thing with Sadiq. So, I think ironically those are the two players that I'm the highest on offensively. But obviously it feels like the Giants will go and should go defensively, especially with their unless they trade back and do what some of the stuff that's Collins talking about. But if they're drafting 5, then you're thinking defense, which I think that goes a pretty long way. 'Cause if you're just looking at strictly this division right now, you got to be thinking like, alright, Dak's getting a little bit older. That timeline's winding down. Jalen Hurts, there's obviously controversy in Philly. Like, what's going on with Jalen? Is Jalen the long-term quarterback? Is he not? Is he a good quarterback? Is he a bad quarterback? Is he overrated? What's he doing? He doesn't want to really run as much anymore. Like, what's the story there? And then you got in Washington, you got Jaden Daniels hasn't been able to stay healthy. Hasn't played a full season yet. He was banged up even as a rookie. Even the games that he played, it was like he either got knocked out of or clearly wasn't right. Clearly was not healthy. So, if you build a disruptive defense in the NFC East, like that's going to go an incredibly long way. Incredibly long way. You just need a functional offense, let alone obviously an elite offense. And so, yeah, I do think in a way, snorts, weirdly enough, so I'm a big believer when you have a young quarterback going all in on supporting him. All in. I'll sacrifice a defense because I want to get to the bottom of who my quarterback is. I want to give him every single thing I can so I can evaluate him under the best circumstances. Even if it's not sustainable long term, I want to be able to be like, this is what this quarterback looks like when we have the best around him. I also think it helps develop that quarterback because he'll be able to work on things, do certain things, make certain throws that unless he has a talent, he wouldn't normally be able to do. So, I think it also helps you, expedite the developmental process. As well as now then as you do have to start to pay him and you just have to lose players and whatnot, you're kind of setting him up to be the young quarterback, obviously Jackson Dart in this situation, to be more resilient, to understand. And also then when he gets young receivers or younger players, he now knows what he wants because he's already done it with great players. And he can say, this is what I need you to do. He's now able to guide the younger lesser talent in a way that he, snorts, needs to succeed. When it's reversed, when you're younger, you're just kind of like you may be like a little bit at the mercy of what's going on around you. So, I'm a big firm believer in that. But because of the way how Jackson Dart plays, and he is a little reckless, and he is a little wild, which again, I appreciate. I respect. I want to see him evolve, but still. You can make I can make the argument that the more all-in that they go on defense, like it does add a little bit of a safety net for him to kind of get his hand caught in the cookie jar once or twice and as long as he's not getting injured. So, when I say reckless, I don't mean like blue tent type of stuff. I just mean in terms of style of play, cause obviously I don't want to see him in the blue tent. I don't want to see anyone get injured. But, I can make the argument that like he's kind of have to, it's so hard to judge Jackson Dart's progress in that regard because I haven't heard many good sound bites in that way that I've really liked. And so, it's hard to know when he reaches that point when he understands it, the way how he plays, the way how he approaches the game is going to have to evolve and change. But, if there's still resistance with all of that, you're trying to win now, you're trying to get on track, you're trying to fix this franchise, get them back on track for the first time in years, it's just like then going all in on defense makes a lot of sense. And that is where then you are going to trust Harbaugh to be like, alright, build a great defense, build this foundation, give us a great safety net to deal with our young kind of immature quarterback who's going to need to understand kind of how to go along with. And in a lot of ways it's what the Ravens did with Lamar Jackson. But, to get to the next level, like I said, everyone needs to mature on offense. Everyone needs to evolve. You need the high IQ people. You need to get that on track if you really want to not only win the division, but go, beyond that. So, I think the Giants are in a really interesting spot because they have the argument for having the highest draft pick in the NFL that coincides with the best position to actually make a true leap in the division. In a competitive division at that. Obviously. Why? I know the Cowboys have been a little bit up and down, but they're still always competitive. The Eagles obviously multiple Super Bowls. It's going to be different because sure, the Saints can take a leap forward in that division, but it's like, it's kind of a mess. The Bengals, the Dolphins, what are we talking about here? Then you're at the Cowboys, the Rams. No, that at that point now we're already down 13, 14, 15. So, they're picking 5th, right? Or excuse me, 5th. It's pretty interesting considering the belief of what the Giants could be, especially because the Giants were a mess last year, but if you had this version of Jackson Dart starting week 1 and Malik Neighbors is there the whole time, etc., you have to imagine that team is worth a couple more wins, 2 or 3 more wins. So, I'd make the argument that even if you had the exact team running it back exactly how it is, this team is really much better than a 5th overall pick right now. Kind of how I feel about the Chiefs, although nowhere near as dramatic as it is for the Chiefs. But, so you could make the argument that the team like the Giants is kind of artificially drafting higher than they should. So, it's a really interesting spot where it's just like, if you do land this draft, if you do stick to landing with this draft and Harbaugh is the right hire and there can be some maturity with Jackson Dart, you can be problematic. Like even the Eagles who won the Super Bowl in 2024, the Commanders gave them a run for their money. Like there was a moment when you're like, Commanders could win this division. And like it was on the table and they got to the NFC Championship game obviously. And that was the year that the Eagles were obviously at their best and they won the Super Bowl. So, it's just like if the Eagles are just not at their best version and the Cowboys are doing Cowboys things and the Commanders are still trying to figure it all out, like then the door is certainly, snorts, open. And again, if you're an Eagles fan, you can't even get mad because it's just like again, in 2024, you aren't the number 1 overall seed. The Lions were, right? And the Commanders were in a position. They absolutely were in a position. I think if you ran it back, you're looking at a team that could be with healthy Malik, all of that type of stuff, Scatboo also not getting injured, and I'm a year 2 version of Jackson Dart and Harbaugh, like just at the floor. It's like I already see that as like 7 wins. 7 wins. Again, you get the draft right. I don't know. You start flirting with an interesting range. And you can see 9 and 7 Packers getting into the playoffs. 12-win 49ers, 12-win Rams, Bucks missed it by a game. Ravens missed it by a game obviously. But, they would have. Got in with 9 wins if they beat the Steelers. Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what the floor is that the Giants would have to have in order to get into the playoffs. Probably feels like we're shaping up to 10, 11. And the only way that you kind of get in there with 9 is maybe a little bit of a unique situation here. But, in a lot of ways, 14, 12, and 12 was pretty unique in its own right. So, yeah. They shouldn't be in a position to win the division. But, if they get the draft right, knock it out of the park, and get some impact players, and there's maturity with Jackson Dart, and you're just healthier now, I absolutely positively see the wild card. In a lot of ways, potentially for their taking. But, a lot of that will also depend on what type of coach Harbaugh is. And is he able to get this team in order? I honestly think that's actually a genuine if. I don't have my full support 100%. Harbaugh can do no harm. It's not the way how I view Harbaugh in this moment of time. And, as much as I'm a believer in Jackson Dart, like I said, some of the things I've heard him say, some of his sound bites since the season has ended haven't been my favorite. And so, I can't say with confidence I know he's going to be a lot more mature this year. I know he's going to, and when I say mature, I mean football maturity. I don't mean like immature in terms of, personality and that type of stuff. I mean strictly football maturity. He got by a lot on just his raw talent and his raw horsepower. And you have to evolve past that. You have to evolve past that. And it's not clear to me, snorts, that the Giants have made that clear to him or that he understands, snorts, that. So, yeah, Giants are a fascinating team. They probably are in one of the better positions to really teeter where things either go spectacularly great, pretty much kind of like what we saw with the Commanders where things went great, they got to the NFC Championship game. The following year, things didn't quite work out for them. And they were bottom team in the NFL, right? So, like I almost see obviously it was for different reasons, injuries and whatnot, but I honestly see that I see the Giants currently at that crossroads where it's just like, wow, they could actually have a really awesome year and feel like, alright, we're back on track, let's go. Right? We got that momentum. We have so much to build off of in the next coming year. Or you're just kind of like, oh man, we're a 6, 7 win team again. And I think a lot of it will come down to Harbaugh and Jackson Dart. But, those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the New York Giants? How do you think they should handle, their draft, their 5th overall pick? Do you think they should trade down? Do you think they're going defense? And if so, who? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single comment. So, whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights. But, ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here. I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be a part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It's really good, helps the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.